Before we begin, take, take a moment and check in with yourself. This episode explores silence, not just the silence that others forced on you, but the silence that you may have chosen in order to survive. So if you're carrying any rawness or grief or shame around your voice, or your lack of your voice, please remember, this is not a place for judgment. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to breathe. You're allowed to come back later if you need to. You don't really need to prove anything here. This space here is more for healing and not for any pressure. Now, if you're ready, let's begin. They most likely didn't need to threaten you. They just needed you to be quiet, not a loud compliance, just a quiet obedience, just a pause before you speak, a doubt before you raise your hand, just a hesitation before you tell your truth. See, that's how control works in most sophisticated systems. It's not through force per se, but more so through fear. Fear that's wrapped up in love, fear that's disguised as wisdom, fear that's labeled as loyalty. And slowly, without even noticing it, you stop talking. And you stop naming the thing that you see. You stop questioning the script. You stop pointing to the places that don't feel right. Because now, telling the truth feels a lot like betrayal. Betrayal to them, betrayal to the group, betrayal to the cause, to the person who once made you feel so seen. And so you shrink. And that's not because you believe that the lie is true, but more so because you're afraid of what happens when you name that truth. And so you start thinking things like, if I say something, they'll think that I'm just bitter. Or if I speak up, I'm going to ruin the peace. If I point this out, I'm going to lose the people that I still care about. If I post this, I'll be cast out. And so you keep the peace externally, but internally, the war rages on. Because you know what you saw, you know what you felt, you know what you swallowed just to keep the group intact. You know what it cost you to bite your tongue. That's the lie of silence. See, it pretends to be neutral. It pretends to be mature. It pretends to be wise. But in systems of control, silence is never neutral. Silence is a vote. It's an offering. It's a signal to the people in power that they can keep doing what they're doing, even if that's not what you meant, even if you're hurting, even if you disagree. That's what it means. And so when we stay silent about what we see, we in essence become a part of that pattern, even if we hate it. And that's the devastating truth that many of us have to face, I think, in the process of our healing. We weren't just victims. See, sometimes we were enablers. Sometimes even we were complicit. And that's not because we wanted to be, but because we were afraid not to be. We didn't want to lose the group or the closeness or the connection or the role that we had or that sense of belonging. And so we stayed quiet. And every time we did, the lie got stronger. Because silence doesn't just protect others, it also simultaneously poisons us. It teaches us that our voice is dangerous and that our truth is risky, that our clarity is divisive, and that our honesty is too loud for the room that we were in. So we hush ourselves and we edit our words and we question our memory. We flatten our experiences and then we let We let the dominant narrative take over, even when we know that it's harming people. And in movements like 764, that's not just a side effect, it's a strategy. See, these systems count on your silence. They depend on it because they know that once one person speaks up, it creates a crack in the wall. And if enough people follow, well, the whole thing just collapses then, doesn't it? So they shame the truth tellers and they frame them as divisive, and they accuse them of sitting in that mix and stirring the pot. And they claim that they're bitter and wounded and just unhealed. And all of this is designed to keep the rest of us quiet. And it usually works, doesn't it? Until it doesn't. Until someone says the thing out loud. And then you hear it. And then something inside of you just exhales. Because that sentence, that bold, inconvenient truth, just sets something free inside of you. It in essence gave you the permission to wonder, what would happen if I told the truth? And that's where it starts. It's not with a megaphone, not with a viral post, not even with a dramatic takedown. But it just simply starts with a whisper that says, I can't unsee this anymore. It starts with the courage to say, that didn't feel right to me. It starts with the integrity to admit, I stayed quiet when I really should have spoken up. See, that kind of courage is sacred. Because speaking the truth after a very long season of silence isn't just an act of resistance. No, it's an act of repairing. Repairing your own sense of self. Repairing trust with the people that you abandoned in fear. Repairing the integrity that got lost while you were protecting your inclusion. And yes, it will cost you. See, some people will misunderstand. Some people will accuse you of betrayal. Some will just say that you're just bitter. And some will most likely leave. But they were never standing with the real you anyway, were they? They were just standing with this version of you who stayed quiet enough to keep them comfortable. And you were never meant to stay in that version. You were made to speak and to express. You were made to tell the truth, to name what others were whispering about. And in essence, to shine a light on what others are pretending not to see in the first place. You were meant to be a mirror in rooms that were full of fog. And every time that you choose to do that, you in essence are breaking that spell. You're shifting the atmosphere. You're creating safety for someone else. And you're interrupting this cycle of emotional control that has been pressed on you. This doesn't mean that you have to necessarily broadcast everything. It doesn't mean that you owe your story to people who haven't even earned it yet. It doesn't mean that you have to become an activist or a crusader or a whistleblower. It just means that you stop betraying yourself to protect someone else's comfort. It just means that you're now starting to honor the pain in your chest that says, this is not okay, or this is not the whole of me. This is not love. That pain is not weakness. It's clarity. It's clarity that you buried under such a long season in silence, and it's waiting to be heard again. See, when you reclaim your voice, you're not just telling the truth. You're reintroducing yourself to yourself again. There's a version of you who didn't need permission to speak once upon a time. The version of you who trusted your instincts. So the version of you who knew how to say, I'm not okay with this. And that voice is still there in you. That voice just got quiet, got tired, it just got used to being ignored. But now it's time to open your mouth and time to say the thing, time to speak the sentence that's been sitting on your throat for too long. And this is not just for justice, but also for freedom. And that's the freedom that you haven't experienced. And freedom for the people who are watching you and the ones who are still waiting for someone to go first. The ones whose silence is screaming still. The ones whose truth is heavy. The ones who just need to hear, you're not alone. So, say it. Say the thing, right? Say it for the part of you that stayed quiet because you thought that this is where safety was. Say it for the version of you that shrank. Say it for the people that you saw getting hurt while you were watching in silence. Say it for the truth that you knew then, and also the clarity that you have now. And say it not to destroy, but to free. Because silence will keep you stuck. But your voice is how you come back to life. Dear listener, if this episode gave you the courage to name something that you've been carrying quietly for a season, I hope you'll join me tomorrow for our next episode. This one here I've called Hope Starved on Purpose. And we'll be looking at how control systems, especially in these grooming cultures like 764, don't just isolate you and manipulate your belonging. They in essence starve you of hope to keep you dependent. And we're going to talk about how to begin reclaiming a vision of your life. One that doesn't come from them, but rises from within you. But until then, may your voice be loud with truth. May your silence be broken by clarity. And may you never shrink again to protect someone else's illusion. I'll see you tomorrow.